Anoka Meals on Wheels, a nonprofit organization that I proudly support, delivers more than just nutritious meals to seniors in our community. They deliver connection, care, and peace of mind. Their volunteers don't just drop off food, they check in, share a smile, and ensure our neighbors know they're not forgotten. I know because I am one of those volunteer drivers. Help us keep serving those who need it most. Visit mowanoka.org to volunteer, donate, or learn more about Anoka Meals on Wheels, nourishing bodies and spirits one meal at a time.
From working in his family's Chinese restaurant, to bartending, to becoming present-day owner of Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric, my father's true superpower is human connection. Now, he's on a mission to capture the most fascinating stories that make up the Minnesota community. You're listening to the Twin City Tales podcast.
Today's guest is Todd Vaske, producer and owner of Agile Video. Todd's been in the production game for decades, starting as a TV news producer in Duluth, making less than Burger King wages. Worked and studied video production for the last decade with several other companies, and eventually building his own successful company here in Minnesota. But beyond the cameras and the storytelling, Todd's got incredible insight on mentorship, generational dynamics, and leading through questions instead of answers. Today, we're diving into video production, business philosophy, and what it takes. Todd Vaske, welcome to the show.
Wow, I feel like I actually have accomplished something. Thanks for that intro. I appreciate it.
And you were up in Duluth, but you actually grew up in Mankato.
Yeah, I grew up in Mankato West. Go Scarlets. We're not Cougar fans in this town, Mankato East. And yeah, I grew up in Mankato. Both my parents went to Mankato State. Both my brothers went to Mankato State. And yes, I still call it Mankato State. And I couldn't be like them. So I had to be the rebel and go up to St. Cloud State.
Which both very, very great at great schools.
Oh, yeah.
Especially on the weekends. Just a great place to be. Both Mankato State and St. Cloud State.
That's the first time I've heard that, is a great school on the weekends. I call St. Cloud State the Harvard of the Midwest. That's how I look at it. But no.
And you started like your DJ. You wanted to be a DJ up there, right?
Yeah. So St. Cloud has a great radio and TV program, and I went there thinking I was going to be the next big DJ, and quite frankly, all I really wanted to do was listen to music. I thought a DJ, all they did is they sat around in the booth and played the records they wanted to listen to, and every once in a while I said, I'll hear a couple commercials, and so I was all ready for that. So I took the first class, Intro to Radio. It was we were in quarters at that time at St. Cloud State, and Al Neff was the instructor. I always remember his name. He was actually a local DJ in St. Cloud. He might still be, I don't know. And first question to the class was, who wants to be a DJ? And I think everybody raised their hand. There were probably 15 or 20 of us. And he goes, all right, well, get ready for minimum wage. And that's a little deflating on your first day of college when you're there to get this degree to, better yourself and your income levels. So I immediately went across the way right after that class. I went across the hall to the TV station and just started poking around and thought, well, maybe I'll finish out this radio class and see how this TV thing goes. And that seemed to work, I guess.
Yeah, and moving from that small town and Mankato, you went to Duluth for a short time, right?
Yep. So first job out of college was at KDLH in Duluth. I'm a TV producer. I produced the 6 o'clock news and the 9 o'clock news. And I got to say that I wouldn't trade that experience for anything, for everything I learned just from, I can name names like there was Joel Thornton, Liz Brumman, Paul Guggenheimer, and I'm sorry I'm forgetting the name of the weather person that I learned a lot from, but I there are things to this day that I still remember learning from that crew about just to conduct yourself, how to do business, how to tell stories, basically. And that's my main job, is telling stories.
So you were like trading in like, I can spin hot stacks of wax here on WKRP.
Oh, WKRP reference. Love it. And that is one of the reasons I wanted to be a teacher.
Because of WKRP? Yeah, I've been doing a
Absolutely.
deep dive on emergency. And at one point, I wanted to be like, when I was 7, I wanted to be a paramedic because of Johnny Gage and Roy, right? The firefighters.
There you go.
And you start realizing, it's, well, like you, when you drove up to Duluth, right?
Oh, yep. Oh, yeah. So Duluth. I'm guessing a lot of you are from Minnesota listening to this, but if you're driving up from the Twin Cities to Duluth, you come up this hill, Wyoming. You know what I'm saying? You come in, all of a sudden there's the city, and it's a beautiful view of the entire city. And I was still going to St. Cloud State when I got my first job. A lot of fun stories about what I had to do to work in Duluth and be in school in St. Cloud, because there were no online classes or anything there. I had a lot of, let's just say, paying off some teachers, so to speak. I'm just kidding. But anyways, I got into Duluth, and I was about a mile or so from the TV station I was going to, and I was singing along to the radio. I mean, I was on cloud nine, and I always remember this. It grounded me quite a bit. I'm driving along, and I see a Burger King, and on the sign it said, "Now hiring, $8 an hour." Yeah, I was making $7.70 an hour for my first job in TV, so that brought me down just a little bit. But I regrouped on that first day, and I still remember my first day working there.
And is it like working on that show Anchorman?
Anchorman is as close to a documentary as you're probably going to get. No, quite frankly, it wasn't. Everybody I've worked with was very professional, and a lot of fun times when the cameras weren't rolling. But there was there's some egos in newsrooms. I won't deny that. But no, I worked with a lot of great people.
Yeah. And then just having the news stories ready, because you were doing the sports, weren't you, up there?
No, I've always been a news producer, and people might ask what that is. I mean, that you are the person running the show, so you're making sure everything's written. You're writing most of the scripts. You are making sure your crews are back in time and getting all of their getting their stories ready to go. And you're the one in the booth with that during the show. You have to make sure you get the commercials in, Wyman. That's the moneymaker. So you're the one timing the show. If you're heavy, you have to drop stuff and communicate that, like dropping story 45, and or if you need to get some time, you have to go to the weather person or the sports person and say, "Hey, I got to cut you a minute." Or things like that, and just making sure that you're starting on time and ending on time.
Interesting. Yeah.
I loved it. The weird thing about news that's different than jobs I have now. The job I have now is on news. You start, let's just say I'm doing the 10 o'clock news. I'll start at 1 o'clock or whatever time it is, and you go, and at 10:35 you're off the air. You're finished. You go home. There's nothing, for me anyways. It was like that day's over and I'm done. And, now where it's like you go home and, oh, I could have done this. Oh, I should check this email. Oh, I should do this. I didn't really have that when I was doing news. It was kind of nice.
Yeah. Yeah. But it did set you up for success in learning the video industry.
Oh, it's huge because writing, you're writing 30 stories, 20 stories, and you've got, between now and 5 p.m. or whatever your newscast is to get it done. And oftentimes the info you need doesn't come in until, there were times when it was like 5 minutes before a show, and I've got to be ready to go run the show. And I'm still waiting for info and writing, and you're kind of, you're doing a lot, and a lot of stress. And then, like I said, as soon as the show ends, it's like a weight lifted off your shoulders. So it was fun. But I learned storytelling. I learned deadlines. I learned, people skills in a newsroom. I mean, when I was in news, we'd have, I don't know, 20 to 40 people, that are all doing a certain little part of the news. So it's, kind of keeping a team, it's coaching, managing, whatever whenever I see somebody, you must have a managing experience for a job, so to speak. Like, yeah. Okay. I mean, no, I didn't have a manager title, but I managed.
And I suppose in that newsroom, especially if a news story's coming in hot and it's
Mhm.
like 3 minutes before the show starts, you got to figure out how to get that in there. So,
Yeah.
like business, I think you have to be very flexible in
Mhm.
what you do. And that
Yeah.
probably helped.
Oh, and you're it's spot on there, Wyman. One thing, if anything, it's one of the reasons I named my company Agile Video is you go in with a plan. You have to have a plan if you're doing a video or you're doing a production of some sort, but you also have to be ready to zig or zag, because sometimes what you think is, say, the best story. Let's say I'm interviewing you, Wyman, and we just want to talk about Twin City Heating and Air, and I've done all my research, and then all of a sudden you come up with a story I've never heard before that's fascinating. I'm going to zag and start asking you questions about that to get that more human interest, that human story out of you. So I learned my interviewing skills in news. It was invaluable.
It's just flexing and adjusting.
Mhm.
And I think it's like that in life, right? Like all the,
Yeah.
I was once told by a baseball coach, like all great hitters can hit, or all good hitters can hit. The great ones learn how to adjust, such as in life. And I think that's huge, understanding that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I think I kind of know, but being you're in the industry and knowing the vernacular, what is the difference between like directing and producing? I'm always
Sure.
been interested in
So
that.
if you go, let's just say it kind of depends on the type of project you're doing. If you're doing a big movie, for example, the director is the one telling people what to do on set, and the producer's the money. Okay, so they're the ones that are putting up the money and doing logistics things. Maybe trying to find a locations, but they might even have people to do that. For me, as a producer, it's the same. I'm the one that's, I'm a writer. I all of the logistics. If we need actors, I find the talent, come up with the creative ideas, and quite frankly, the director on set is the same thing as you're, telling people what to do and when to do it, and telling people to go and stop and let's do it again. I'll do both. So I do producer and directing for my company, anyways.
But it's the person that comes up with the most money gets the title of executive producer,
Yes,
right?
yes. So I'll tell that to my clients. I say, hey, you're buying this video. You're the executive producer. And some of them really love that. I'm not a huge awards guy, but a couple times we've won an award, and so I've given the trophy to the client with their name on it, an executive producer. And I know one guy used to bring that to all of his meetings, set it in the middle of the table, and then start the meeting. Had nothing to do with video at all, but
But there's a pride to that, right?
There
I get
was.
to be executive producer.
there was.
So between producing and directing videos, what is like your sweet spot? I know you do that a lot. You do a lot of the directing and writing
hmm
of your videos, but what is your sweet spot? Which would you rather do, or does it all blend and flow for you?
It all blends and flows, but I will say my favorite is once everything's captured, or before, if it's, so there's several different types of videos. If it's a interview based video, I love doing the interviews, but then once I get that back and taking that 30-minute 60-minute interview, my videographers all get mad at me because it should only be like 5 minutes, but I start talking and then asking a lot of questions. Next thing you know, a 5-minute interview is gone for 30 minutes. But so I love the interview part of it, but my favorite is coming back and pulling it all together and crafting the story. I love finding that one line, that somebody said that's compelling, and starting with that, as opposed to, let's say I was doing a video with you. I couldn't start with you just saying, "Hi, I'm Wyman Wong, and I'm the owner of Twin City Heating and Air and Electric." That's boring. Who cares? I mean, I care, but no, I want that one nugget that like, wow, I should listen to this.
Yeah. And so you do a lot of like storyboarding when you get into your video producing,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, we'll storyboard some. Some projects it's not necessary, but when you're talking like when you storyboards are really needed when like it's time limit and it's more of a concept base. So if you have actors, for example, and you have a scene here and a scene here and a scene here. That's to me is when the storyboarding is really important. That's also important too when you're doing like motion graphic things where like a client, for example, let's say we're doing a graphic piece and you're trying to explain the visuals to the client, but they don't exist yet. So it's nice to maybe put together a storyboard of this is, a representation of what we're thinking. Is this work? Is this, does this follow what you had in your head? So that's when storyboards come into play.
Yeah. No, it's interesting because of your business. I I heard you speak about your business, and the one thing that really intrigued me that I wanted to ask you about was like the three things you need to know. And I think you talked about it with the Savannah Bananas, like
Yep.
know your audience. You want to go through that again with
Sure.
me?
Yeah, there's the successful videos or company, the successful storytelling brands is what I would call them. They know their three knows, and that's KNOWS. And the first one, and it's kind of basic marketing, but I feel like a lot of times people forget it. The first one is know your audience. Uh, you mentioned the Savannah Bananas. They know that their audience is their young families, 25 to 35, sports fans. Pretty simple, but they know that, and so that's what they target. And so your audience. The one that sometimes people miss is know where your audience hangs out. And what I mean by that is if it's social media, make sure you have the right platforms. The Bananas, for example, they do Snapchat or no, what do they do? TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, because they know that's where people are, and video is huge on those platforms. So that's why they pick that. They're not hanging out on LinkedIn. That's just not a place that they need to be. They're not hanging out at the the urinal of the men's room with the videos playing, because that's more of a shotgun approach. They know exactly who they want to target and where they hang out. And the last one this is the one that I think companies make a big mistake, is they try to shove too many messages in. So I say know your one key message per story or per video. And that way you get that across. So if you have 3 key messages, for example, do 3 videos. Because if you think about it, by the time you get to the end, you probably have forgotten the first 2. So always keep people wanting more is kind of that old, showbiz saying. So that's why I just, give them that one key message and stop. If they want more, they'll get more. And that's what the Savannah Bananas do, is they're fans first is their motto. And everything they do is based around that key message. So their video might not even say, we're here, fans, we believe in fans first. You just get that from the video with all the goofiness they do.
Yeah. I think what they do well, and I think I saw that from David Horsager, what he always says, like, because part of that branding is building trust, right? Trying to get that. So, and one of the things that David Horsager says is like, make it memorable, repeatable, and actionable, right? And I think Savannah Bananas does that. Like, you make it memorable.
Yep.
And on the field, they do it very repeatable, and it's actionable. Like their company, their entertainment is very actionable.
Right.
So,
right. And and I was ready for this question. I did this presentation for another group too, and it's easy to pick the Savannah Bananas because they're visual. It's entertainment, it's fun, but it works for, say, insurance salespeople too. Maybe not the most exciting thing, but I'm going to use an example. You haven't heard this one yet, Wyman, but in a presentation I compare what the Savannah Bananas do to a local retired insurance person, Al Anchetta. You know Al
Yeah,
Anchetta.
yeah.
And Al, instead of standing up in networking events and just saying, I sell insurance and I can cover your house and whatnot, he would just stand up and shout out, pop quiz time.
Right.
Remember
and you
that?
relate to that.
And then he would, so the example I used, and I called him on this one, as I said, okay, Al would do something like this. Pop quiz time. It's 4th of July, shooting off fireworks, maybe questionable fireworks in your backyard, having a good time. One explodes over your neighbor's deck and causes some cosmetic damage. May or may not be a true story. And is that covered by your homeowner's insurance? What do you think?
No.
Al tells me it is. If I'm the person who set off the fireworks, then my homeowner's insurance should cover it, will cover it. And you might, if there are any insurance people listening, you can, Todd at agile-video.com, and I'll hook you up with Al, and you two can debate that all you want.
Nice. Yeah. And it's memorable. And it's constantly, because you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you say pop quiz time, I think of Al, right?
Right. And think about it. What Al did with that was, it is a form of storytelling. He knew his audience, which was business owners like you and I. So what did he do? He hung out at networking events that had a lot of business owners. And his one key message was, when it comes to insurance, I'm the guy. Because he proved his expertise, and he proved that it's beneficial to have him as opposed to even going just to an online agency, for example. You could call, Al knows the answer, and he'll give you the answer right away, as opposed to going in a little chat bot and trying to figure out, is this covered by my insurance or not? So Al did a great job. A lot of people didn't even know it, but that's what he did.
Yeah, no, it's very subtle.
Mm-hmm.
You know who else does that? And he's in one of the networking groups, Jared Peterson, because he always does that. Jared knows, right? Like, that's his thing.
Hey, I know that website, askjaredheknows.com.
Yeah.
I use it, and it's, there's a thing called Google I could use, but oftentimes if I'm looking for somebody for some help, that's a website, that all of you should know, askjaredheknows.com.
Yeah, and it's a branding thing for him, and it's memorable,
Yep.
and it's repeatable, and it's actionable. So it's really interesting. And so because somewhat it ties in what you do, video and marketing, right?
Right.
Like, what are your biggest challenges currently in your industry in that video production?
I could call this a challenge. One of the things that's happening is people are learning how to do video at 10 years old, 8 years old, 5 years old. And so there's this a little bit of a perception that video is becoming easier and easier to do. And my argument, it's not necessarily an argument, is from a technical standpoint, video, it's never been easier. Heck, AI can throw something together for you now. But there's a craft in telling the story. And right now, you might be great at just editing something together, but it could be disjointed, So that's why I still feel like it's important to have professionals do the videos that you put in front of your clients, that you want to have like a long shelf life. If you're just doing some events and some social media stuff and things like that, phones are awesome. And I would always say, do it, get that content. And those are the types of videos that you see once and then just kind of disappear. And that's great. That's what the Savannah Bananas do with their stuff. But when you want something that's living on the front page of your website, you have a sales team that's sending stuff out to people to maybe vet or qualify your company, that's when I do think it's important to bring in the experts, the pros, to help you tell that story and produce just a high-end piece for your company.
Yeah, that is really important. I don't know why when you said that, like the 10-year-olds can do it and anybody can do it, basically, is what they think, but there is more to it. And I just keep thinking back to the episode of Cheers where Norm and Cliff get into it about whose job is like simple, and they like brought in a monkey to bring in like the mail, right? Because Cliff carries mail, and then the next part of that show where the one monkey comes in with a paintbrush.
Yeah,
So,
wow.
and that really does, like, it almost feels like when a 10-year-old starts doing that, it devalues it, but they don't realize what really goes into it. It's almost like selling homes, right? Like people think you just show people.
I mean, I have had people call me and say, I've got my nephew does this. And my reply is, okay, then, I can't compete against your nephew who's going to be free.
Yeah. And
usually it's, you get what you pay for. And again, there are times when that type of stuff is perfectly okay. In fact, if you have something that's overly produced for something that's supposed to feel spontaneous, then you're going to lose the effect. So I use it. There's an example, and it's been a long time, but there's an example of a video of I think it was a young girl who had just, beat cancer. And so there's just a cell phone footage of her walking through the line, high-fiving all of, the nurses and things, and then ringing a bell. And it was shot on a cell phone. And if that had been shot any other way, it would have lost the effect. This was just that spontaneous moment of, this is happening right now, so I'll use my phone and show. And it was perfect, perfectly done. So yeah, there's a time and place for it.
Yeah. And we've talked about that too, like our social media ads, like what has to look really professional, what can you get away with. And I think that's like a really spontaneous moment when you're doing that, right?
Right.
Or you're using it for a presentation. Do you really want to use that for like a professional presentation? Probably not. You probably want to have.
Yeah. I'll use an example as if you're a professional speaker and you're trying to get more speaking jobs, you probably don't want to post a ton of, people just getting you on a cell phone. It's not going to look great. You're probably going to want, a little bit more polished, a better look. So it just all depends on your situation and your career, what you're trying to do.
And that's where your company comes in and really distinguishes it from that 5-year, 10-year-old that's doing it.
And I've turned people away, said, look, if you're comfortable doing it yourself, I think you're going to be better off. And it has worked out. I've had people come back and hire me for bigger jobs, and they said they thanked me because, they didn't need to spend a ton of money to do the first things, the original request.
And people don't realize what it is to be a professional like you, because there's a lot that I like. Getting this podcast started, right? We had talked about like sound quality and what it takes to build those sound quality. Now, we can go out and buy the $30, $40 microphones, but we choose not to because Dan is the director of the show somewhat, and he wants to make sure that the sound quality is right, spot on, right? I mean,
you got quite the setup here. Dan came through for you.
Yeah, and the cameras were really important. And, it's kind of funny because I still remember having that conversation with Dan about, let's just pump out as many as we can. Just get it out there, right? And all of a sudden he's like, well, the editing on the sound takes a little while. Like, you got to make sure that that's right. And I'm like, whatever, right? I'm not that detailed. And then he kind of comes to me and says, listen to this podcast, right? And it was a podcast with just like kind of choppy, and all of a sudden it spiked. And I'm like, and he says, if that was even great content, would you stick around and listen to it for any longer? I'm like, no way. It just the sound quality was already bugging me.
I'm being dead serious. You have to listen to Dan, because first thing, if you're starting off your podcast, for example, and you instantly start with wonky footage and wonky audio, people aren't going to tune in for the next one. But the second key here is, it's something I tell people all the time, is the audio, and you might know this, the audio is way more important than the video side of things. People will put up with, not great shots, maybe it's out of focus, but the content and the audio quality is really good. They'll watch or listen. If you flip that and you have the most beautiful shots, everything looks great, and you have a horrible sounding mic, music's overmodulated or whatever audio issues, they'll tune out. They weren't very scientific, but I did some, worked at another company, and with a great friend of mine, Matt Beer, he and I kind of would poll people and say, here's a video with this and here's a video with this. Which one did you like better? And they always picked the one with the better audio.
That's interesting. No, it's good to know because, we're just starting this journey on podcasts and I'm still feeling things out, but I realize and it's a cost factor, right? Like there's a lot more to it than you think than just get in front of a camera with a 10-year-old or 15-year-old and just start filming. So in your industry, though, you're getting more people coming in because they're interested in that. What is it like working with newer people in this industry? And as there are a lot of people that anyone that, there's a lot of people that can pick up the phone, like you said, and start shooting video. What is it that you are challenged with working with them in that realm right now?
Are you talking like new people getting into the industry or clients?
I think it's new people getting into the industry because the clients already know kind of what they want.
Sure.
And we kind of talked about certain professional, some of them already know, some of them don't, I suppose. But I'm talking about because your industry has that where newer kids oh, I can do this. And but they can't.
It's been interesting, and I'll preface this with saying that I was probably this way too. But the one I've found the most is people really want instant gratification. So they think a lot of the younger folks, call them kids, but they're in their 20s or something. You go to a video shoot, right? And you ask them, let's say you start off, you do the interviews, for example, and now you've got your content. And as the producer or director, I have a shot list of the footage we need now. And remember, when you're doing like an interview, for example, you spend all this time setting up for that perfect shot, but you're on that camera for like 3 seconds. That's only to get to establish who you are and sometimes your name and title. After that, it's all, people are familiar with the term B-roll. That's the footage that you put over the audio. And a lot of the younger folks I've worked with don't concentrate enough on that B-roll footage. So they don't realize that a shot is only used for about 1 to 3 seconds. And if you talk about something for 10 seconds, now you need 3 to 5 shots just to cover that. So that's where that whole wide shot, medium shot, tight, move over, get a different angle, wide shot, medium shot, tight. And sometimes they just get that one shot and I got it. And so I worked with if you got time, I got a little story here. I worked with a young videographer and I knew his boss. I'm not going to go with any names here. And he said, Todd, will you just help this kid out? He was pretty young. And so we did the interviews and I had my shot list. I said, all right, let's go start here. And, I said, hey, all right, we need this. They mentioned this in the interview. So we're going to stop and get this shot too. And he held the camera up, did 5 seconds. And then he said, got it. I said, are you sure? Because you're going to, that's going to be a pretty important piece of the video. And so it's probably going to be on, probably talking about for 15, 20 seconds. So you have enough? Oh, I had enough. And I pushed it. I wasn't, I didn't just go, okay, I think you need more. No, I got it. So, okay. So, fast forward 2 weeks later, I asked him, hey, how's the edit coming? And he literally did that face palm and shook his head. And he said, yeah, we have to go back. I don't have enough footage. And I think that's where he's learning and he'll get better. But I think that's when you start young, you just get as much as you like fast. And, video shoots, to do it right, I know there's that AI out there, but it takes time.
Yeah.
You want if you're a manufacturer, you want your place to look great. It takes time.
I think also holding the person's interest in watching it, right? And what made me think of it right away was one of the things that we do is we have 3 cameras up here, so it's not static.
Right.
And I think if you forget and you're like, okay, I can roll this for 10 seconds and it's kind of somewhat static, but you'll lose people's attention. Am I correct in saying that? And again, I'm not a professional.
You are. Now, again, it's all about pacing and storytelling, and if somebody's in the middle of that emotional story, then you can hold a shot a little bit longer, or cut to a different angle, but if still still showing them on camera. It's a matter of feel. That's why I constantly use that term storytelling, because to me, that's the key. Why am I watching this video? If you're not telling me a story, giving me info, and storytelling isn't all, it's not like telling me a fairy tale or something like that. It's just, when I say storytelling, it's just the way you present your content.
Yeah. And I think depending on your audience too, or depending on, let's say, generation, right? Like, you have to change that here and there, like making it work for them.
Oh, that's when I go back to know your audience, one of the first of the 3 no's, because a baby boomer is going to be interested and take information way different than a Gen Z person. It's just, so if you try to tell the same story and do the same thing for a baby boomer, or even generations, sometimes even gender, it's, people react differently. So if you don't tailor your message for your audience, they're not going to watch, and they're not going to take away anything.
Yeah. And when you're talking about that person that you worked with and you're trying to train them in, and 2 different kind of generational, because I feel like you and I are maybe in that Gen X and maybe even that millennial like border.
Oh, I'm Gen X.
You're
loud
Gen
and
X
proud.
all the way. Yeah.
We're all forgotten.
And you're probably working with the Gen Z, right? Like at that time. Like
I'm not actually the best at knowing exactly where those age cuts up.
Born 2006, 1996 to 2006 or so. It was Gen Z.
It was somewhere, somewhere in there. But yeah, it's
it's kind of different process. Not process. I mean, different thought processes, and we've talked about it before on this show. But the Gen Zs are kind of like, they want to be more connected. I think they've gone through a phase where they're in that the pandemic, and then plus the texting, so they don't have the concept of like muscle memory or even tone memory. Like, I think you were the one that said they kind of give you a blank look when.
Yeah, there's the Gen Z stare. Yeah, but as being in the communications game, I mean, you have to learn how to communicate, and I haven't always, like, for example, I think if that had happened, so that story was from a few years ago. If that had happened now, I would even do it differently. I would actually almost try to make it like it was their idea, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like come and say, what do you think about what do you think about that? That they talked about it. What should we do? And I think when the approach I took was like telling them. And I'm guessing if that's maybe why it didn't take, but if it was more of a, I wonder, that would look kind of cool this would look cool if I did this. I wonder if it just, so I'm learning in that. I'm trying to be better at trying to communicate differently with, depending on who I'm speaking with, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. And, it's, when you say that, I think of like the Gen Zers now. The interesting thing with them is I feel like they just want to know the why they're doing it, right? And sometimes as Gen Xers, we're just told to do go do what you're told. Don't ask questions, right? But I also think that that's the beauty of the Gen Z the Gen Zers, the ones that are the young kids today. Like, they want to know the why. They want to know if I don't understand why I'm doing this, why am I doing this anyways? I might as well just go, using work, for example, right?
Yep.
I'll go work for McDonald's for $5 an hour less, because I understand I'm dropping these fries to feed these people, right? But if they don't understand why they're taking wide angle shots and doing all those 3 shots, they're just like, This doesn't make sense.
I'll always
I don't-
remember.
I hate this.
Yeah, my first lesson in that, Wyman, was I was coaching a baseball team, and I don't think it was Little League. I think it was like 13. I forget what age, but I was coaching Little League, and I was coaching because a good friend of mine called me up and said, "Hey, Todd, if we don't have a coach by noon, we won't have a team." And so nothing like, Minnesota guilt, that fell hard for that. So I'm coaching this team. I'm not the lead coach, but it's towards the end of the season, and my friend's son is a catcher. He's a great catcher. All of a sudden, middle of an inning, we're playing. He decides he's not going to crouch down anymore. He's just going to stand up like the first baseman and catch the ball. And so the first couple pitches go, and I was busy, doing something with another player, talking to a parent. I don't know, probably just chatting. And all of a sudden I hear the ump, coach, get him, get your catcher to, crouch down. And so hey, Brandon, crouch down. And he shouts back at me, why? Like you were just talking about. And I have all of the reasons, it's easier to block the ball. It gives a better target, lets the ump, see the strike zone better. But the only thing I could come up with at the time was, and this is what my dad would have said, because I said so.
Right.
That was my only reason to say why he should crouch down.
And our generation was like that, right? Like if you don't like it, lump it.
Yep.
And it just is what it is. And, it's kind of one of those things where I think as we've gotten older, we're starting to learn how to work with the younger generation. That's what's huge.
Mm-hmm.
That's what
and it's needed. I mean, just think about it. It's the future. So you have to.
Yeah, for sure. Well, with that, I think we're going to take it into a break and we'll be back. Tired of lugging heavy bags of water softener salt from the store? Twin Sea Heating, Air, and Electric now delivers premium water softener salt right to your home in returnable, reusable 20-pound containers to go green and light it up to save you from injury. Serving the north suburbs, we're your neighbors who know how hard our water is. No more running out of salt and dealing with spotty dishes and stiff laundry. Quality salt, reliable delivery, local service you can trust. Because at Twin Sea Heating, Air, and Electric, we don't just keep your home comfortable, we keep your water soft and your life easy. Twin Sea Heating, Air, and Electric, now with water softener salt delivery. Call today or visit us online. If you're enjoying this show, we'd really appreciate it if you could take a second to hit that subscribe button. It helps us reach more listeners, and if you're feeling extra generous, leaving us a rating or review would mean so much to us. It only takes a minute, but it's a huge difference in helping others discover our show. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook at Twin Sea Tales for behind-the-scenes content, episode updates, and more. Now, Todd, this is the part of the show that I actually give you some pictures.
All right.
This one your brother sent me.
Bring it on, because I'm concerned what he sent. He's all about trying to embarrass me, so I'm concerned. Let's see what we got.
So this one, and you look so much a lot like your brother, too.
Oh, my gosh. That's my brother, Scott.
And he's wearing a Mickey Mouse shirt.
Yes, so that must have mean that was our first trip. I think we went to Florida. Oh, my goodness gracious. My dad built that clock right behind me.
He did?
He did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Your dad must have had a handful for you, too.
Oh, he did. He was also an instigator, too, though. He would egg us on a little bit, and then I think he enjoyed watching my mom have to put the hammer down.
And I think, if I remember right, your dad's no longer with us.
Yeah, he
right?
passed away in July of 2020. 2024. But yeah, good guy. Miss him every day.
And I remember you telling me a story once a while back about how he's so political about stuff.
Yeah. Now, my dad, everybody knows, and I spoke at his funeral, and I said, oh, so a lot of you know that he was pretty shy with his political views. No, he wasn't. He very conservative, way on the right. I try to keep my views a little more, keep it inside, because I've got different views on different things. Anyways, but my dad, the one thing I respected about him, I love this story, is usually I'd call him up on a Saturday and I'd say, all right, Dad, what you got going on this weekend? And he'd go, well, Sunday I've got to go straighten out the Liberal. And so every Sunday morning, he and I don't remember the gentleman's name, but would go and meet at the same restaurant, and they would argue and bicker and for hours. And unlike today's climate, they would then, shake hands and see you tomorrow. And I feel like that's important. That it's okay, you don't agree, but yet you can still stay civil, and they were friends. And I always respect that, and I try to treat others, even I'm not hugely political, but if I maybe don't agree with you, I'll still have a beer with you. I'll still have coffee with you. We can still talk. We can talk politics maybe, but maybe we'll just skip to how the Twins are doing or something like that.
I find it fascinating because I feel like you're right. There's families that are torn apart because of politics, right? Like they don't talk to each other over politics. And
nope. And you're right. And my dad, I know, like, if this never happened, but if one of us three boys would have come back and said, we're a Democrat. In fact, I think my middle brother might have even leaned that way a little bit more, but my dad would never, oh, that's okay. Because that's, he didn't want to, he would like to battle with other people, but, he would never let that destroy relationships within the family or, just friendships in general. And I think that's great. I think that's how life should be.
Yeah. And I still think a little bit of it, we should really learn to listen to each other a little bit more and what that point of view is, even though you may not agree on them, whether it be political ideology, even business ideology. Mm-hmm. But I think you still learn something from it, right? And be able to embrace just hearing what they say. And we can walk away agreeing to disagree, but it doesn't mean that person's a bad person. It just means, hey, this is what I believe in, and I'm going to respect what you believe in. And if we could just understand that a little more, even this day and age with what's going on in the real world, right? Like, I feel like, and I don't know if it's just the media, but a lot of it is like, if you believe in the one way, you're absolutely wrong. And we got to get away from that. We have to stop and listen to each other.
We do. Words of wisdom from Wyman Wong.
But I digress. Going back to the pictures.
All right.
That's really cool.
That's a good one. That is the dining room of the house we were at the longest, the house I pretty much grew up in. Yep. So
it looks like he's giving you the armbar twist too.
He is. We did a lot of wrestling.
Gotcha.
We did. Oh,
it looks like you're, for the audience listening to the show, he is dressed up in a nice suit, like a rental.
Oh, that's a rental. Oh, that's a top of the line rental. He's about
to go on to prom, I believe.
It's prom, or we had two different types of formal dances. That is Donna Swenson. I don't know where Donna is. Donna, if you're out there, good to see you in a picture here again. Yep, that's in front of the fireplace. So growing up, I love my dad's picture taking of the two candles coming out of the top of my head. Well done. Well done.
Only a video guy would pick that kind of stuff up.
Exactly. Oh, that's a good, that brings back good times. That was a fun night.
Yeah. Well, Donna, if you're listening to the show, we would love to have you check out Twin City Tales. And that'd be, because we would love to hear more stories about Todd. Oh, this one.
Oh.
It's a little blurry. You're in a red. So it must have been Mankato football.
That's a Mankato West football. I'm guessing that's like the 8th grade or 9th grade program. I'm trying to see what it looks like. I was 21. I was a running back and a cornerback. Believe it or not, you can't tell by the shape I'm in now, but I was usually the fastest guy on the team. Baseball, I batted leadoff. Always
nice,
stole. Was never thrown out stealing.
Very
and I stole
done.
Every time. Never thrown out. I'm kind of proud of that.
You were like the Ricky Henderson of Mankato.
And I spoke in the third person. First person, third, whatever.
Yeah, third person.
Yeah. Todd never was thrown out. No, I got that, I see this and I'm smiling because if you really think about sports and like activities in school, how much I was learning there, but you don't know it because you're having so much fun. Like if you were told, well, if you join the football team, you'll learn how to become a good teammate and how to work with others. And I don't want to play. That sounds silly.
Yeah.
But just think about why, man. I know you were a baseball player and how much you learned when you're behind the plate catching or you're on the bench or a coach tells you something. I don't know. That's good memories there.
And it's not so much the practices, it's I just remember so much about hanging out with the guys, right? That was like, it's not so much on the field all the time, although we do have spin yarns on when we get together and talk about what happened on the field, but just going out to dinner with them or just going out on the weekends after the game and talking about the different dances we went to right after the game, right? So
like dances with Donna Swenson.
Yeah.
But like, just think about it when you mentioned practices. No, you hated it, but really that's where you learned about working. I mean, that was the job, so to speak. That was learning how to work hard, how to work as a team, learning the plays, it's just how to play the game correctly. I wasn't a big practice guy, and I was always the one goofing off. And next thing you know, I've got to run laps. But
looking over your shoulders to see if the coach is watching, and then you cut the corners.
Oh, dude, we had to run the mile in gym class. They had that presidential thing. And you got a certificate for running the mile.
Mine was signed by Gerald Ford.
Wow.
That was, the print, but Gerald Ford, 1977.
I believe mine was a Ronald Reagan, I think. But I'll always remember this. I totally got busted, and I had to run. So I was doing the miles, Mankato West, and it was on the track. And on the opposite side of where we started was this big giant pit, for the high jump or,
Oh, yeah.
So I ran around the first lap, and it was a quarter-mile track, so you had to run 4 times. And as I ran around, I noticed this big, cushion bin, So I kept going, and I was running, and the whole time I'm thinking, if I just duck behind that and I count, okay, that's his second time, that's his third time, that's okay. Now I'll pick it up on the fourth and coast in. Yeah, I totally got busted for hiding behind that cushion. So Mr. Latsky was the name. He made me come after school. I don't think this would ever happen anymore. He made me after school stay and run the mile again.
You know what I love about that? You know what Jesse the Body used to say? It's all perfectly legal if the ref don't see it.
Yes.
No, great picture. And this one must have been the holidays. You were really excited about this.
That's a birth. Okay, so that's a. I didn't know he would send this one. I actually have a story about this. So that's a birthday. That's first grade, and we were living in. I think that's the house in. We lived in Golden Valley for a year, and I use the story of my mom all the time. And actually, it's very, I think, kind of pertinent to now. And I don't. Hopefully, I don't get people to go, that's silliness, but. One thing it was my mom was big into respecting life of others. And so that gun got me into a lot of trouble because my mom had a rule that you couldn't point any type of gun, including like a finger gun, at anybody. And if you did, you were grounded. And that gun was taken away. You could shoot at, a bottle or something like that, but you don't point any kind of gun at somebody because that's, you just don't do that. So I hit my brother Scott with one of those ping pong balls. And next thing you know, I'm grounded for a week. And that's probably the last time I saw that gun.
So it was a little message he was sending you.
Yeah.
Because he sent the pictures.
No, it was, I think I hit my middle brother Scott. I think, thanks to my brother Mike for sending these photos, by the way. Although I'll admit, are there more?
No.
Okay, he went pretty tame then. There were probably some others that would be a little bit more embarrassing, but that one's a great one. He has no idea that picture is in my brain because it's always been a thing. I'm not anti-gun, but I don't want a gun because I was kind of taught that.
Yeah. It's so funny how your brain kind of works that way, right?
Right.
Like it's not a big deal. I don't really care about a gun. I think it's the same way with me when I was younger, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't important in my family, so it's not really important in my life now.
Right.
It's interesting. So going back to we want to bring back. We want to bring back.
And the fact that it's off center too, Dad. Come on, with the nice flash in the upper right side. There.
Yes.
But that was before there was a time when you had no idea what the picture looked like. You snapped it, you couldn't look at it.
Oh, that's right.
It.
Nothing digital.
That's film.
Yeah.
That's old
and you had to
school.
pay to have that developed too, on top of that.
And then and it could take a week. If you didn't go to the hour place, it could take like a week.
You know, the funny thing is my cousin was a photographer in Chinatown. Like my uncle owned a photographer. And one thing that, God rest her soul, she was young and she passed away, but she always told me, and this was before digital even, but every time I'd see her and visit them in California, she always said, like, yeah, film may be a little expensive, but memories are priceless. So you should just take as many pictures as you can, get more rolls of film.
Oh,
and she didn't even have stock in film. So
no, that was one of the things, especially my brother Mike, I'm thankful he did this, was, we cleaned out my parents' house and he made sure he grabbed every photo. And, so these are good. These are fun.
So bringing you back to this picture with young Mrs. Swanson.
Yes.
So if you can go back in time and give that young Todd, what, you were 18, 17?
That's probably a 16, 17. Probably 17.
What advice would you give him today that you wish you could have known back then?
Did we talk about this in the pre-Wyman? Let me think about it. Advice. I would say, you know what? Everybody's going through something. And I know this is advice a lot of people give right now, but I do think it's true. The world when you're 17 revolves around yourself. You're not worried about other people. And you know what? Everybody's got something. So just kind of, I feel like I have to get better, and I'm getting better at, okay, that person, just like on the way here, I was cut off, well, person wasn't paying attention, but I don't know what's happened in their life today. And so just trying to be a little more patient, a little bit more understanding of what people are going through. And I don't know. And then what I find with that is I don't get all riled up. I don't get tense.
That's awesome, because it goes back to what we're talking about. Like, why do we get so worked up at other people's? Because in all reality, the guy that cut you off, like, I think too many people think that he did it to me on purpose, right? Or he did it to me.
Yeah.
But they didn't even have a clue. It's not like they did it to you. It was just that it happened.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we forget that. And even like people's ideology, we need to just go, I get you see it one way and I see it another, but let's walk away from this, and I can still learn to respect and love you, right?
Yeah. I think I would also go with that. With this is, and you brought up, okay, yeah, this isn't digital, is live the moment and live. I feel like sometimes people live their lives too much in that little, the screen this big. And my wife and I have talked about this when we go on vacation. Yeah, we'll take some photos, but let's keep the memories instead of having 1,000 photos of something and, this and that, remember it. I mean, we've had a lot of times where we were on a boat one time, we were doing a whale watch, and we're watching this entire boat. People like, I missed it. No, I saw every one of them, because I can get a picture of probably the same whale back at the gift shop. And so we appreciated more of I never got it. I didn't get that shot. So that's why I feel like in the old days, you took a couple pictures and then you had the memories. Whereas now everybody's taking pictures of everything.
That's really good advice. I got to remember that, because I tend to do the same thing where, oh man, like even at the sporting event, right? My head's down on my phone. I'm trying to get a picture of some. Yeah, you're right. That's really good advice right there. And I do have two more questions for you. I always love a connection question. So how has your approach to making genuine connections evolved in our increasing digital world? Because you just talked a little bit about it, but we are, and you being the videographer, Agile video, it is digital a lot.
It is. I'll say this. I am still that in-person person. I still want to meet people face to face. I feel like that's how I get a connection. Uh, I don't connect with people as well via Zoom and all those digital ways to do things. So I feel like because I still can meet people face to face, I feel like that allows me to be able to communicate better. And I feel like that's communications being lost. And I think a lot of it is because, you haven't learned how to do it. Uh, kind of go back to the Gen Z thing where I think, unfortunately, during school and maybe even the generation before them, like when you had COVID, they're locked and they just kind of get shut down and you're not meeting people.
Yeah.
And I just feel it's so important to get in front of people, chat, learn, hear what they're about. And so the way things have changed for me, yeah, I still, I do a little bit on LinkedIn and try to connect through with that as far as business goes. But other than that, I still, get out, socially. I still, let's go do this, let's go do that. Still get out with the neighbors. Went to a play this weekend with the neighbors. Fire pits all the time, that's to me, that's connecting.
Yeah. There's a lot to body language and tonality, and you don't get that over text.
You don't get that over text. I feel like sometimes on social media, you feel like maybe somebody's yelling at you and maybe they're not.
No. And everybody's so happy, right? Like on social media stuff. And you always think that, God, why is my life? But in all reality, when you talk to them in person, you can tell things,
Sure.
It's more of a connection.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. And the last one is, if there's one person you would love to see on this podcast, who would it be and why?
All right. So Wyman, you gave me this question. This is the only question you gave me prior to this meeting, to this podcast. And I've been thinking about it and I've run through a bunch of different ones and I tried to go local and then I thought, oh, maybe people who are no longer with us, but I'm going to go with, are you familiar with the comedian Nate Bargatze?
Yes, I have heard of him. He's had some staying power. Like every once in a while, I'll see him come up to concerts and
that
stuff,
guy,
for sure.
he's the most popular comedian on the planet right now. He's selling out arenas. You have one guy standing in the middle of arena, and the reason he's popular is because of his storytelling abilities. He doesn't swear. He doesn't curse. I feel like sometimes people use like a curse word to get the laugh. Like that's the punchline. And he just tells stories that, at least for me anyways, that I can relate to. And so they're even funnier. They're family related, they're, work related, they're, things just everyday life. And he's able to turn these, and he just tells a story. He doesn't tell a joke. Yeah. He tells a story. And I think it's fascinating. I think you and he would have this really great conversation.
Yeah. I don't know if I can get him, but man, that would be kind of fun to do.
That one might be, he's got his own podcast that I think he gets millions for now, but you could try. I'll also give you, and this one, people have no idea who I'm talking about here, but just a guy we know together. I think Mike Elwell he's a personal friend for both of us.
Yeah.
And Mike Elwell is in the exciting world of title insurance.
Yeah.
But he's got a fascinating way of being excited about that and how he keeps people interested in quite possibly the most boring subject on the planet.
Right.
But yet he makes it exciting. And so he does a lot of seminars and things like that. So he's one that if you're like, well, who could I get for sure? Yeah, I know Mike would do it.
And his story is fantastic. I have talked to him.
Yeah.
The Totino's family.
He's from the Totino's family. Yes. The Totino's pizza rolls come from his family. And so why did, it'd be an interesting story is why is he in title insurance and not, selling Totino's pizzas or whatever.
And I know you grew up in Mankato, but I grew up here in the Twin Cities, and they had a restaurant called Totino's right off of Central and right really close to that Hennepin.
Yeah.
And Rose Totino used to be there all the time. Like it was a big hot spot in the 50s and 40s. Yeah. And my dad would take us there And we'd eat there because it was so big. And so actually, Mike Elwell's brother, because I'll talk about it. Hey, if you ever want to get that sauce, my brother still makes it, and then he'll make it in jars, and he sells it. So if you want to meet him back of a Walmart, with a couple bucks, he'll sell it to you, which is pretty cool. I have bought that they do have really good spaghetti sauce, but
so
yeah,
he was the one locally that I had others too, but since him, I thought, that's one that could happen.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I got to get him on. And this is the part where I want to just say thank you for coming on the show. And I got a couple gifts for you. This is kind of just
nice.
our little trophy with a little thumbs up. Exactly.
Awesome. Oh, it's even got my name on there.
Yes.
And the name of the podcast. Okay,
yes.
That's fancy.
And I know you're a big baseball fan.
What do we got here?
A Saints bat. Big hitter like you.
Yes.
Fast, too.
Yeah. Well, basically, the Saints became the Twins this year.
Yes. And, of course, your very own podcast mug.
Did you know I'm a big coffee drinker? Wow. I'm honored.
And, the one thing that I took away from our meeting before was you're a big Al Newman fan.
No way. Where did you find that?
1988.
Yep,
it's a year that won the series. And he actually, I didn't realize how many games he played that year like he was in, because he was kind of a utility guy. But
how many home runs did Al Newman hit in his career?
Oh, in the career.
10. One. Yep, his first year.
I was close.
I believe it was his first year was with the Expos. Guy,
really?
He did not have power.
No, he didn't have power. But I figured with as many years as he played,
and I won't get into too much. Why I liked Al Newman, why he was my favorite player is he wasn't fast, couldn't really hit. He played almost every position, but he wasn't, great. He wasn't going to win any gold gloves at it, but yet he still played in the major leagues for, 10 years. I don't know how many years, but there was a reason he stuck around on these teams. He had something that brought value to that team. So he was able to use whatever that was.
He was scrappy.
He wasn't the star, wasn't the greatest athlete on the planet.
No.
But yet was always there. I mean, hey, played on 2 World Series teams.
Yeah, there's something to be said about that.
Exactly.
Even if you're the 25th guy, you're pretty darn good on those teams.
Exactly.
Well, Todd, I can't thank you enough for coming on Twin City Tales. If you want to learn more about Todd, you can visit his webpage at www.agile-video.com. Again, that's www.agile-video.com, or visit us at Twin City Tales Facebook page, and we'll post it on there. And as we roll out of here, I want to thank Chris Hockey for the use of his song Thanks, with no pun intended. This podcast is powered by Twin City Heating, Air, and Electric. And until the next show, you can't go wrong with Wyman Wong and Twin City Tales podcast.
This song goes out to my family, to all the ones who died before me. I'm sure the family life made you do things you never wanted to, so I wrote this song to say thank you for the breath that I just took, for the life my son will.